Welcome to This Just In, the show bringing you the latest advancements in healthcare, strategy, innovation, and public policy. And now, for the fastest voice in healthcare, here's your host, Justin Barnes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the special edition of This Just In Radio. I'm your host, Justin Barnes. Today, we're broadcasting live from HIMSS25 in sunny Las Vegas. Very excited to be here. It's already been an action-packed 72 hours. The HIMSS annual conference is always the centerpiece of my annual schedule, and this happens to be my 25th HIMSS annual conference and my 11th year broadcasting from the annual conference. I feel very fortunate to be able to broadcast annually from HIMSS. Hal Wolf, Albie Zakes, Morgan Searles, and the entire HIMSS team have been extremely supportive, and I'm extremely and tremendously grateful. Also, I can make a special note of thanks to Roberta Mullen, Greg Masters, Carol Flagg, and the entire Healthcare Now radio team for their tremendous support and managing the demands of my HIMSS broadcasts annually and the recordings. Also, I'm eternally grateful to all of my hundreds of guests throughout the years, and certainly to all of my loyal listeners. We owe all of this show's success to you, and we still are so honored to have won the Sway Health 2024 Healthcare Podcast of the Year award that never gets old, but rather challenges us to get better every day with every broadcast and every conference. Which leads us to today. This is the start of 3 days, 5 shows, and over 40 guests here in Las Vegas for HIMSS25. We have our best lineup yet of CEOs, CIOs, CTOs, care providers, researchers, policy leaders, and visionaries joining the show. As many of you know, my goal for broadcasting live each year from these key conferences is to create an information medium that shares best practices, key strategies, and actionable intelligence from the industry's leading sources and experts. My objective, along with all my guests here, will be to offer tactics and strategies to not only survive, but to thrive as you navigate your hospital, your physician practice, your company, or even your family through all these changes occurring across healthcare today. There is more opportunity than ever before for all of us to thrive, but we must understand how healthcare is evolving, how policy and reimbursement is shifting, and where best practices and innovation can support our efforts. I hope you glean all of this over the next few days. That's at least my goal. Welcome back to This Just In Radio Show, broadcasting live from HIMSS25 in sunny Las Vegas. I'm very excited to introduce my next guest and great friend of the show, Tony Nunes, Senior Manager, Healthcare and Life Sciences with AMD. Welcome back to the show, my good friend.
I am so happy to be here. I couldn't be happier if I were twins.
I love it, and thank you. I know we're on the tail end of the conference. I'm sure it's been an amazing few days, but nothing confidential, but please tell me how it's been the last couple of days for you.
My feet hurt really bad.
I can imagine. I know. We get 14, 15, 16, 17,000 steps a day.
Yeah.
And I see you're hustling around here, having great meetings, having a good time.
I'm torn between two emotions, just elation and pain.
Yeah.
And pain. And pain.
Elation and pain.
And pain. Let's talk about the elation side of this, because I'm actually, that'd be a better subject for the radio show.
Much better. You got it.
Here's what I see, because we were together a few weeks ago at Vive.
You got it.
And that trend that I saw there is just stronger here. Yep. And that's this. AI is finally becoming real. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is people who are outside of the tech business maybe would find this surprising that the hype cycle accrues to even institutions like hospitals and institutions of higher learning are susceptible to hype. And certainly the hype around AI is no exception to that. So for 2 years, we've teased out tools, we teased out prospects of what this could be, and people are loving it. Yeah. Making it real, though, is a different matter. And you have complications now from 2 different angles. How do I pay for it? How do I implement it?
Yeah.
So the how do I pay for it is the most tangible manifestation of what they have to deal with.
Yep.
So the grant system that most institutions have been relying on to be able to fund projects, it's incurring some challenges at the moment. I don't think these will be permanent. In fact, I don't even think these will be long-term.
Yep.
But at the moment they are. So the alternative here is to look at where can I extract savings to actually implement some of this stuff, because you have to. Because as a nation, we've made the determination that we have to be the leaders in AI, and that's across all industries and healthcare especially. So, how can I do this properly? Well, start and I'll shameless plug for AMD.
Please.
Our plug is the foundation for digital health adoption, which is ultimately what AI is going to be about.
Yes.
So creating the savings out of what's in the data center, creating the savings in performance and energy usage and licensing costs. But that implies an exercise that goes along with it, and that's looking at the condition of your data. So most healthcare institutions have 3 decades worth of data, right, that they've accumulated, that they've never gotten rid of for a host of reasons. Okay. That data is not necessarily usable for AI.
Right.
But in the process of modernizing your data center, you got to go through that exercise. Let's take PACS, medical imaging, as an example. I spent many years just assuming that what came out of an MRI or a CT scan is how it's supposed to look. But that, in fact, is not the case. There's all sorts of dimensionality that comes in with information that's kind of different from one to another. And that makes it very, very difficult to be useful in AI if you're trying to create personalized medicine. If you're trying to incorporate the PACS information with the structured database information from the EMR, it's not easy to do. What's happening now is that they're seriously looking at that data because it is an asset that you can go and extract value from.
Absolutely.
Cleaning it up, and that becomes part of this exercise as you're adopting AI. So in effect, this is the principle of being able to start structuring everything properly, which you should have been doing all along, but weren't. And now you do. And this is going to create the foundation for something that's going to be, in my mind, spectacular for patient care, for just streamlining the overall workload and giving clinicians tools to be able to do their job better. That was long.
No, I love it because also it's a consistent theme, and almost all my guests have talked about how we have to become more efficient. We have to do more with less moving forward. Budgets are going to shrink a little bit, but you're talking about modernizing the data center, modernizing, and using the data that you have, and creating and putting it in a structured way. And that's also where you bring out the promise of AI. So
exactly, you can't just bring in ChatGPT and tell me how to do my taxes, or tell me why my knee is bothering me. That's just not going to work. There's a whole lot of steps between nirvana and where you're at to get to that. So you can spend all the money you want on GPUs, it isn't going to help you. And in fact, that is exactly what happened last 2 years. The thought was, if I just bring in some more graphical processor units, that'll solve the problem. Well, most of the time they're not being used. They have a 30% utilization, and you've spent a whole lot of resources in putting them in. This is a much more mature approach, a much more grown-up approach to how to actually structure the foundations to make it possible.
Love it. So what are some of your goals? I mean, we're on the tail end of HIMSS. So what were some of your goals for being here in Las Vegas? And what else do you hope to achieve on the way out?
I mean, last year was the first year we were here. AMD is the strongest engineering entity around chip manufacturing and processors. But we didn't really have an industry focus, which is why I was brought on in the first place, was to help create one for healthcare. And so last year was the first time we were here. People didn't know who we were.
I met you last year,
Yeah, and didn't really understand what the point was. That is not the case this year. This year, between our OEM partners, between customers, we're seeing unbelievable traffic in the span of 12 months. So that was our personal goal, to be able to extend that branding and capitalize it for next year even further. Because now it's not just a question of just having a faster processor. It's how can I leverage this for modernization, and how can I actually acquire AI? Now it's going to be real. So,
I mean, even for a second, because you and I are also close friends, we work together on and off. You grew over the past year. You went from how many named accounts? Like 2 named accounts initially, now to over 100.
We're well over 100 in 12 months.
In 12 months, 2 to 100, well over 100.
But that's the trend with AMD as a whole, right? So 5 years ago, we had 0 penetration in the data center because our friends at Intel just simply dominated that space. In 5-6 years, we've gone from 0% to 80% penetration in the public cloud. So if anybody's using AWS or Azure or Oracle, guess what? 80% of everything you've got on there is on AMD already because of the performance superiority that we have. Overall, in data centers, we're at close to 40%, and I guarantee you we'll be at 50% in 18 to 24 months.
Congratulations. I love it. So, looking into the proverbial crystal ball, what do you see as a strategy or trend that we must be ready to navigate in 2 to 3 years from now?
Okay. This is where it starts to get interesting. So different things have been working independently that you're going to see the convergence on. So from teledevices, the remote medicine, remote consultations have kind of been working in isolation from the rest of the infrastructure. That will not be the case, because the whole point is to try to bring automation across the total gamut of care delivery.
Yep.
And so you're going to start seeing remote devices are going to be tied directly into a session that you initiate through some portal, through some AI chat environment. That'll bring that information in, that you'll start seeing pre-information before you even see a physician or a care provider. Right. That includes all of your blood markers, for example, any existing medical imaging that you may have taken. Okay. That more complete profile, not complete profile, but that more complete profile is going to be available in real time. Yeah. That's what you'll see in 3 years.
Yeah.
And then beyond that will be the perspective side on how you actually take that information and start creating personalized medicine as part of a larger project around genomics, et cetera. So you're going to start seeing the convergence of all of these factors.
Yeah, and what I get excited about is now you're moving towards that digital twin, which I do love. When you think about personalized medicine, having my genome sequenced and be able to understand what medications are right for me, that's again, personalized medicine.
100%.
That's exciting, because I say we're no longer guinea pigs on ourselves then. We're going to know exactly what works at the time, our age, our genetic makeup.
Yep.
I mean, it's exciting.
I was on a panel yesterday with my friends over at Dell, and they asked me.
And by the way, Leigh Williams, you remember you're on the panel with her?
Yeah.
We went to college together. I mean, high school together. Not even college. We went to high school together.
Yeah,
she's
Leigh and fantastic.
Leigh's fantastic. Yes.
I love what she had to say.
Yep.
And in fact, I don't know if it was Leigh that asked me or was the moderator says, what do you think?
John Lynn was the moderator.
John Lynn.
Yeah.
John asked
another good friend.
What is the greatest gift that AI can provide? I said, personalized medicine. I mean, and people may or may not realize that whatever medical intervention you're being given, it's got less than a 40% chance of success.
There you go. Efficacy. Yeah.
Because there's a multitude of factors that are just unknown, and you don't know
and
how
we don't talk about that publicly.
Yeah, I know.
And how so true.
How you're going to react to it.
Yeah.
So what AI can do is, because it's able to look at so many factors simultaneously, once the data is cleaned, of course, is we can raise that efficacy rate from 40%, let's say, to 80%. And look at how much savings that you have in drug costs just by that, because you won't need nearly as many.
Right.
Instead of taking 6, you may only need 1.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's exciting.
That's the most exciting aspect for me too, personally. Yeah. I love it. Love it. Yeah, I know. I was doing the show yesterday. I missed that panel. I saw it this morning, and Leigh's a good, like I said, I mean, I don't want to say my age. I'm 52.
No, she's fantastic. I love what you have to say.
Literally 40 years.
Yeah.
So I love it. Yeah, she's with Augusta Health. Fantastic. I saw you and John Lynn. That panel, terrific. So in your closing minute or so, what are you looking forward to this afternoon here before you go? When do you go home, first of all?
Tomorrow.
What time?
Early morning.
Okay.
6 o'clock, I think.
What do you hope to accomplish in your last 24 hours here?
Well, I need to go out and check my emails, which I haven't done in about 6 days. And then, people are like sending hitman after me.
Right, exactly.
Right. But I want to take the time to thank each and every one of our partners, our OEM partners, and luminaries that we've invited, because honestly, they're the ones that are spreading the message around our branding and why this was such a success. And I want to personally thank all of them. And thank you. You've been a big part of helping us as well.
Absolutely, thank you. And I actually was I had a separate dinner last night at Golden Steer, and I saw you with a bunch of your customers there at Golden Steer last night. Was that a fantastic? Let's give them some props, because that was one of the best meals I've ever had in my life. If not the best meal.
I had never been there. Honestly, I didn't know about it.
Well, you knew about it because you made the reservation. Well, we do. I helped you.
I didn't know what to expect. Right.
Yeah.
But you walk in there and it's a throwback in time. I'm back in the 1940s, and Dino's playing on the radio.
Great.
And just some of the best steaks and martinis I've ever had in a long, long time.
Well, it's good to see you there. We'll actually, you will make reservations again far in advance, 6 months in advance.
I'll fly in specifically
just for that. That dinner.
Oh, yeah.
Well, thank you, my friend. Great to have you on air, and I hope you have very safe travels back home.
You too.
We live, Tony and I live about 5 miles from each other.
I know.
Love it. All right, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Safe travels. Welcome back to This Justin Radio Show, broadcasting live from HIMSS25 in sunny Las Vegas. I'm very excited to introduce my next guest and longtime friend, Leigh Burchell, Vice President of Public Policy, Public Affairs from Altera Digital Health, and importantly, the chair of the HIMSS EHR Association. Welcome to the show, Leigh.
Thank you, Justin. It's so fun.
It is so fun to have you here, and it's a blessing. First of all, how you been? We've not caught up in many years, so.
I know, it's been a long time. I've been good. I mean, it's funny. There's never a boring day in health IT.
Absolutely. I'd actually love to talk a little about the industry as well as the association, but when did you get in town first?
I came in Sunday evening. Yep.
Okay, awesome. It's been a fun show?
Yeah, I mean, packed. It's never boring, right?
Yeah. No. And when did you guys rebrand? Because it was Allscripts and now Altera. When was that?
Yeah, it's been almost 3 years. It was May. May will be 3 years, and we kind of split off, right? Two companies came out of Allscripts, so I'm on the Altera Digital Health side.
Excellent. And how long have you been with that family?
I almost don't want to say, but I will say it's been about 25 years.
Yeah, I've been. This is my 25th HIMSS. So
I mean, you and I have known each other for so long, so you know it's been a while.
Yes. I love it. I assume it's been awesome, though. Kind of cool seeing a lot of people that
Absolutely. I mean, it's fun to see people. You get to be with people in person who, maybe you're on Zooms with or whatever. And also, I mean, it's just meeting, which is super productive. Yeah. So happy to do it.
We accomplish a lot, but we're also burnt out at the end of the time.
Exactly.
When do you go home? Tomorrow?
I'm taking a red eye tonight,
actually. Oh, my goodness, yeah. I know this has actually been tough. When I was booking flights out here, because now I moved to Sarasota, but it's even to Atlanta, the flights have changed. It used to be a lot easier to get out at like noon or 3 o'clock and you get back like 9, 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
Now those flights don't seem to exist. So it's much more difficult. I only had like 8 red eye options to choose from and like 1 during the day flight. That was it. I mean, I could all red eye options. I'm like, I didn't want to do a red eye though.
Right.
But so what progress are you most excited about seeing in the industry right now?
I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have talked to you about AI. AI is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
We look
Absolutely.
at the frustrations that healthcare providers have with administrative burden, documentation of all the things that regulations require of them. So AI can help. Very excited. But as someone like you who has been in the industry for a long time, I'm also just really excited about kind of realizing all the stuff we were talking about 20 years ago.
Right.
I remember having conversations with doctors. What is an EHR, right? And then a couple years later, having conversations with congressional staffers as they were starting to weigh, legislation. And all of that's now out, right? We have this opportunity to do amazing things with data, and honestly, it feels kind of fulfilling. I feel like I had this little minuscule role in that, and I love that.
There's the framework. I mean, we created the framework that all this is being built on now, certainly between the High Tech Act and the Cures Act. So that is the framework for a lot of the EHR, and then obviously the interoperability.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you look at all the secondary uses of data, all of that we talked about. We knew that was the promise, right, of high tech.
Absolutely.
All of that, and here we are. I mean, it's awesome.
It is. That's a very good perspective. What are you what are you looking forward to AI helping on the EHR side? I mean, we hear a lot about ambient listening and those kind of components, and my guests will talk about that. But from Altera's standpoint or your individual thought leadership, what do you think from AI regarding the EHR specifically?
So we've had conversations with clients, and certainly within the industry, within the EHRA structure, we're talking a lot about this. And, there's 2 categories, really. There's clinical and then there's non-clinical. When we ask our clients really what they're looking for help with, a lot of it is non-clinical, right? They want to be able to be a doctor. They want to be able to just focus on the interaction with the patient. They want their staff to not be distracted by a lot of things. And so they're asking for help with scheduling, with chatbots, with patients, things like that. So I think we can take a lot of the administrative burden off of them. The clinical stuff is where people get, kind of buzzed and excited, and I get that. But really, it's like an artist who says, I don't want AI to do the art for me. I want AI to do the other stuff I don't want to do so I can do the art, right? And medicine's kind of the same way.
Yep. Well said. Well put. So what are you currently working on that you're most passionate about?
Well, so this is an interesting one.
Also, you wear a couple of hats. I mean, even from an Altera standpoint, but then also the EHR Association, although you have both hats.
And there's certainly, we're, pretty wedded together.
Yes.
There isn't a lot that I'm doing for Altera that doesn't overlap with EHRA.
Yeah, good.
I'm a policy geek. I love health policy. The change of an administration, new congressional offices is fun, right? So we're in a time of upheaval. Everyone wants to know what the heck's going to happen.
You're the first person to say this is fun in that regard, but I agree with you. It's a great opportunity and it's fun. It is. I agree.
There's just so much to track and read and see what's happening. So that's fun for me. I do have ideas about deregulation for ASTB O&C. EHRA does.
Right.
Things that, are in certification that really aren't adding a lot of value. So we do have deregulatory ideas, but I am pretty passionate about the need for us to still have ASTP, ONC
Excellent.
to really keep us moving on interoperability in particular, right? We've all been doing this for a while. Interoperability is not where it can be.
Absolutely
We've seen
true.
Huge progress.
Yes.
But it's not where it can be.
Correct.
We need
That's right.
a regulator to keep that standards promulgation going, to keep all of us moving down the track in the same way.
Totally agree.
And I will tell you, what concerns me is the risk that if there were a really extreme deregulatory movement at the federal level, the states are going to step in.
Right.
And we're going to end up with
chaos.
Patchwork. Seriously, chaos
Yeah,
is the right word.
that's right.
That freaks me out.
Yes.
So I'm
Very
definitely
fair.
passionate about, we still need them.
We do.
We still need their coordinator role as well, right? Because FDA, CDC, even like DEA, VA, it's not just HHS. People are doing a lot with health IT.
Right.
And so we need someone to be coordinating that
all
work.
that. I have not done, so my policy show comes up in about 3 shows from now. I'm going to have Tom Leary on, so I'm going to get more of a policy. But is there a glimpse that you can give us? Because I have not talked policy in a little while, certainly with a new administration. Is there any glimpses that you've seen? Like, Justin, I expect to see this, or even with Steve Posnack and that whole crew. I mean, do you know anything, or do we? Or any changes?
I definitely am hearing about a lot of deregulatory pressure on them.
But the team is Steve's still there?
Steve is there, and he's the acting assistant secretary.
Beautiful.
So
phenomenal man. We all love him. Yeah.
Yeah, but I am hearing about some kind of risk to their work.
Yep.
So that is something that we're certainly watching. From a congressional standpoint, I think there maybe is a little bit of an interest in AI legislation and cyber security legislation, both for obvious reasons. So we may see that. But a big place that we as vendors are spending a ton of time is at the state, right? So I alluded to the fact that a patchwork of laws is really challenging for us.
Right, absolutely.
But we're looking at that. There is an explosion of legislation, regulation, and executive orders on AI, consent management,
at
interoperability at the state level.
Yeah.
That's really, really hard.
Concerning.
Yeah, so we want a national framework.
Absolutely.
Because we can comply with one, right?
Right.
You want one kind of plug to go into
right.
the wall. You don't want 50 plugs depending which state you're in.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're facing a little bit. So that's an area we're losing some sleep.
Well, then we're going to put some steam behind that too, from at least my perspective, from a broadcasting and radio show, because we're going to put more light on that. We got to do it.
That's awesome. We will talk about it all day long.
Good. Well, we're going to have a platform for that. What are your goals, or what were your goals for HIMSS25, and what did you accomplish and hope to accomplish maybe on your way out of town?
Yeah, so, I knew I was going to have a lot of meetings. I have been to HIMSS many, many times.
Yes.
And it's always meetings.
You must be around the 25 count too.
I missed, I think, maybe 2 for being pregnant at various times. And then COVID, of course, we weren't in person. But otherwise, I've been here.
Yeah.
So, I knew, just back-to-back meetings. We did have some really interesting meetings. We met with the DEA on fraud prevention efforts, that they are looking for help from health IT developers.
Good.
Because apparently there's really an explosion of e-prescribing of controlled substance fraud. And so they're looking for help from us, from SureScripts, Dr. First, ID.me, the whole spectrum of people who help with the e-prescribing.
Yep.
So that was interesting and really eye-opening.
Good.
I will say, because you kind of think about the PDMPs and all of that, and we're good. We've got all this technology in place, and apparently that's not true. So the woman we met with really educated us a lot. A lot of meetings with state folks. We, to that point I was making about the explosion. We met with HIMSS chapter advocates. To talk to them about, what are you seeing in your states? How can we work together to try to influence that? We met with the NCSL, the National Conference of State Legislators, to learn what they do in research to help the state legislators as they're coming up with bills. So you can hear from me that it's really a priority for us, that kind of state thing. So a lot of good meetings there.
Well, I'm hoping HIMSS can then be a good, because the HIMSS has those chapters. They can be a good conduit for creating some standards, or making sure we don't get too far off the rails there from a federal standard standpoint.
I think there's a lot of room for collaboration, and the chapters really can be boots on the ground in a way that, us as vendors who, there's one of me, right? They can really help.
Excellent. So looking into the proverbial crystal ball, what do you see as a trend or a strategy that we need to be ready to navigate in 2 to 3 years from now?
Not to be repetitive, but I do think there is I think the state stuff is going to become really dominant in a lot of the work that people have to do. And it's not just us as software developers, it's also our clients. So, you have a hospital or a health system or whoever is in multi-states.
Exactly.
How are they navigating that, right? So, and to my earlier point about the excitement of data and the proliferation of data, this is a play off of that. So what I have found, having done policy for a long time, is that when something becomes exciting in the industry, when there's a really big boom of innovation like AI, policymakers then come and say, ooh, what do we need to do with that? Do we need to regulate that? Do we need to, put guardrails or whatever? I totally understand it, right? There are patient safety concerns around AI. I totally get it. But what we're seeing is a couple of really hot topics are now making their way out because the states are saying, oh, there's a lot of data out there. And what is this patient safety risk? And how do we want, patients managing control of their own data? That's another hot topic. Then, so it's not surprising, but it still presents a big challenge. So I do think that's something we're going to see, and collectively the whole industry is really going to have to navigate that.
Right. That's a good point. Again, we have some good federal frameworks for that. And so, and some of that's being created again at the federal level, and you have to be very careful at the state level of how wily that gets.
And look, we all know Congress has not done a lot of legislating recently, and so you do have these kind of vacuums on topics like cybersecurity and AI.
Yeah,
states are going to fill it, right? If the federal landscape doesn't take care of it, the states are going to take care of it because they're worried about, their patients or their providers or whomever. And so we would just, we're all in favor of one approach.
Absolutely. No, I'm glad you brought that up because I have not been part of that conversation for a little while, but that makes a lot of sense. We're actually going to look into that greatly. So when's one of the last things you're going to do on your way out of town here?
So I'm actually Vegas? On a panel on the current regulatory environment for AI.
Excellent.
That is coming up later today. And then I want to go see some of the closing stuff. I haven't made it to a lot of the sessions or keynotes because I've been, busy. Tied up. I swung by our booth and that kind of thing. But I want to actually, kind of participate in HIMSS a little bit as a learning opportunity. I will say there was another AI policy panel I wanted to go to, and they put it at the same time as ours. So I don't get to go see that, but I will watch the recording because I think it'll be a good one.
That's one thing about being now on my side of the fence here a little bit is I get to do a little bit more of the educational sessions. So I did 2 educational sessions while I was here, which normally I did none before. So we're usually talking instead of listening. I don't usually
make it, so
Very cool. Leigh Burchell, Altera Medical, thank you so much.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Justin.
You got it. Thank you. That's a wrap from Las Vegas and HIMSS25. Thank you all for listening. Thanks to everyone who voted us 2024 Healthcare Podcast of the Year. Thank you so much, Roberta Mullen, Greg Masters, Carol Flagg, and the entire crew at the Healthcare Now Radio Network. They've also been producing my show for 11 years. Also, a special note of thanks to Jake Reed, my head of media, and certainly a big thank you to Hal Wolf, Albie Zakes, Morgan Searles, the entire HIMSS team. They're always extremely supportive in the events and broadcasting requirements that I have. And again, thank you so much to all my listeners. We're grateful for you. You make us better with every broadcast. And that's a wrap from Las Vegas. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.